The debate that followed was unlike anything in human history, not just because the stakes were so high, but because they were forced to grapple with concepts that human language could barely express. Elena found herself in the strange position of translator between her fellow colonists and ideas that existed at the very edge of comprehension. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," Director Walsh said during their third emergency meeting in as many hours. "Option 1, we become museum pieces. Option 2, we stop being human. Option 3, we become cosmic missionaries to help other species face the same choice." "That's not entirely wrong," Elena admitted, "but it's much more complex than that. The gardeners don't see these as mutually exclusive states. To them, consciousness is fluid, evolving. What we call human is just one point on a spectrum." Dr. Tanaka looked exhausted. "Elena, I'm a medical doctor. I deal with human biology every day. The idea that consciousness can exist independently of neural activity goes against everything I know about how minds work." "Everything you know about how human minds work," Elena corrected. "But they've shown us that consciousness is a fundamental force, like gravity or electromagnetism. The brain is just one way of organizing conscious experience." Marcus had been unusually quiet during the discussions, focusing on the technical implications of each option. "The real question," he said finally, "is whether we trust them. They claim to be benevolent gardeners, but they also just wiped out most of our species." Commander Okafor nodded grimly. "From a strategic perspective, we're completely at their mercy. Any choice we make is meaningless if they decide to eliminate us anyway." "But that's just it," Elena said with growing excitement. "They didn't have to give us choices at all. Every other species they've encountered was either preserved or enhanced without consultation. The fact that they're offering us options suggests something different." "Such as?" Elena pulled up her analysis of the gardener communications, patterns she'd been studying obsessively since first contact. "Look at this. Every time they've made contact with a species, there's been a different approach. They adapt their methods based on the species' demonstrated capabilities. With us, they're offering partnership because we proved we could surprise them. By nearly destroying ourselves in a quantum physics experiment," Dr. Tanaka pointed out. "By showing initiative," Elena corrected. "By taking risks for knowledge. By doing something they didn't expect. That's what separates us from every other species they've encountered." The hours stretched on as they debated, explored, and gradually came to understand the magnitude of what they faced. Elena found herself thinking not just about the immediate choice, but about humanity's long-term trajectory. They were being offered a chance to become something greater than they'd ever imagined, but at the cost of becoming something other than what they were. Late in the discussion, Marcus raised the question that had been haunting Elena. "What about Earth? What about the people who might have survived?" Elena had been thinking about this constantly. The gardeners had been vague about the fate of Earth's population, using terms like preservation and enhancement that could mean anything from benevolent protection to something far more sinister. "I think," Elena said carefully, "that our choice here determines what happens to them. If we choose preservation, we prove that humans prefer stasis to growth. If we choose enhancement, we demonstrate that we're willing to abandon our humanity for power. But if we choose partnership, we show that humans can grow without losing themselves," Commander Okafor finished. "That we can evolve while maintaining our essential nature." Director Walsh looked around the room at the 800-plus people whose fate rested on their decision. "How do we make this choice for everyone? How do we decide the future of our entire species?" Elena had been wrestling with that question for hours. Finally, she stood and activated the colony-wide communication system. It was time to let everyone participate in their species' most crucial decision. "Citizens of New Selene," she began, her voice carrying to every corner of the colony. "By now you all know about the choice we've been offered. I'm not going to pretend that any of us fully understands the implications, but I believe we need to make this decision together. Not as leaders and followers, but as representatives of humanity itself. Over the next several hours, Every person in the colony participated in discussions that ranged from practical concerns about survival to philosophical debates about the nature of consciousness itself. The miners talked about what it meant to shape worlds, the researchers debated the value of knowledge versus safety, the engineers explored the possibility of building bridges between different forms of existence. What emerged was a consensus that surprised even Elena: overwhelming support for the partnership option, despite its risks and uncertainties. Time and again, people expressed the same sentiment. They'd come to the moon to push the boundaries of human capability, and they weren't about to stop now. "We didn't come this far to choose the safe option," said Dr. Reyes from the hydroponics lab. "We came here to be pioneers. If we're going to represent humanity to other species," added Engineer Thompson, "we better make sure we're representing the best of what humans can be." As the debates continued, Elena found herself thinking about her grandmother's garden again, about the way life adapted and thrived even in hostile conditions. Humanity had always been a species of explorers, risk-takers, dreamers who reached for something beyond their current circumstances. The choice they faced was really no choice at all. It was an expression of humanity's deepest nature. When the final vote was tallied, the result was decisive: 723 votes for partnership, 98 for enhancement, 26 for preservation. They would become humanity's ambassadors to the cosmos, bridges between the human perspective and the transcendent consciousness of the gardeners. Elena felt a mixture of relief and terror as she prepared to transmit their decision. They were about to embark on a journey that would transform not just their own lives but the entire trajectory of human evolution. And somehow, it felt exactly right. The process of becoming cosmic ambassadors was unlike anything Elena could have imagined. The gardeners didn't simply download information into human brains or replace their consciousness with something alien. Instead, they created what Elena could only describe as a bridge, a gradual expansion of human awareness that preserved the essential elements of human thought while opening doorways to broader perspectives. "It's like learning a new language," Elena explained to Marcus as they underwent the initial phases of the transformation. "Except instead of learning new words, you're learning new ways of thinking about reality itself." They were in the colony's modified medical bay, where Dr. Tanaka supervised the process with a mixture of scientific fascination and medical concern. The gardeners had provided technology that seemed to exist at the intersection of biology and quantum physics. Devices that could enhance neural activity without damaging the delicate structures of the human brain. "How do you feel?" Dr. Tanaka asked, monitoring Elena's vital signs as patterns of light played across her neural interface. Elena paused, trying to find words for sensations that human language hadn't evolved to describe. "Like I'm remembering things I never learned. Understanding concepts that I didn't know existed. It's overwhelming and perfectly natural at the same time." The transformation affected each person differently. Commander Okafor reported enhanced tactical awareness that extended beyond three-dimensional space, allowing her to perceive strategic possibilities across multiple probability states. Marcus found his engineering intuition expanded to encompass technologies that manipulated the fundamental forces of the universe. Dr. Tanaka discovered an understanding of consciousness as a biological force as real and measurable as any other aspect of human physiology. But the most profound change was collective. As each person underwent the enhancement process, they began to share a level of awareness that connected them while preserving their individual perspectives. Elena found she could sense the emotional states of her colleagues, not as telepathy but as a heightened form of empathy that allowed true understanding between minds. "We're becoming something new," Elena realized during one of their adjustment sessions. "Not less human, but more than human. We're keeping everything that made us who we are while adding capabilities we never imagined." The gardener entity they'd been communicating with, who had begun to manifest as a more recognizable form as the colonists' perceptions expanded, confirmed this understanding. "You are the first species to choose conscious evolution while maintaining species identity. This is unprecedented." Elena sensed something like excitement from the entity, an emotional resonance that suggested the gardeners themselves were learning from this process. "What happens now?" Elena asked. "Now you learn. You explore. You discover your capabilities. And when you are ready, you help others make the same journey. The learning process was extraordinary. The colonists found themselves able to perceive aspects of reality that had been invisible before. The quantum foam underlying spacetime, the flow of consciousness through dimensional barriers, the vast network of intelligence that connected species across the galaxy. But more importantly, they learned to navigate these new perceptions without losing their grounding in human experience. Elena spent hours in meditation-like states, exploring the expanded awareness while anchoring herself in memories of Earth. She could perceive the cosmic perspective of the gardeners while simultaneously remembering the taste of her grandmother's cookies and the sound of rain on windows. The human and the transcendent existed in harmony rather than conflict. 3 weeks after the transformation began, Elena experienced her first contact with another species. The gardeners had detected signs of emerging intelligence in a system 37 light-years away, an aquatic species that had recently developed technology and was beginning to question their place in the universe. You will observe, the gardener explained as Elena's consciousness was projected across interstellar distances through mechanisms she was only beginning to understand. You will learn their nature, their capabilities, their potential. And you will help us determine how best to approach them. Elena found herself perceiving an ocean world covered in floating cities, populated by beings that communicated through complex patterns of bioluminescence. They were beautiful, intelligent, and completely unique, a form of consciousness that had evolved along entirely different lines from human thought. Watching them, Elena understood her role with sudden clarity. She wasn't just an ambassador for humanity, she was a translator between different forms of awareness, helping beings understand each other across the vast gaps that separated species. The perspective she'd retained from her human origins allowed her to bridge differences that the gardeners, for all their transcendent abilities, couldn't navigate alone. They're artistic, Elena reported after observing the aquatic species for several hours. Their entire culture is built around aesthetic expression. They see technology not as a tool for control but as a medium for creating beauty. Their first contact experience needs to be approached through art, not science or philosophy. The gardener's response carried notes of appreciation and surprise. Your insight is valuable. We had not considered aesthetic consciousness as a primary driver of evolution. Elena smiled, feeling a deep satisfaction that combined human pride with cosmic purpose. This was what humanity could contribute to the galaxy, not superior technology or transcendent wisdom, but the unique perspective that came from conscious evolution. They could help other species find their own paths to transcendence while preserving what made them unique. 6 months after first contact, New Selene had become something unprecedented in the galaxy, a bridge between human consciousness and cosmic awareness. The colony still looked much the same from the outside, the same domes, the same mining equipment, the same blue marble of Earth hanging in the black sky above. But inside, a transformation was taking place that would echo throughout the cosmos. Elena stood in what had once been the observatory, now converted into something the colonists called the network chamber. Arrays of quantum crystalline structures provided by the gardeners created a space where consciousness could extend beyond the physical limitations of brain and body. Here, the enhanced humans could project their awareness across interstellar distances, making contact with species throughout the galaxy. Contact established with the Helix builders of NGC 7293, reported Dr. Chin, who had discovered an affinity for communicating with silicon-based consciousnesses. They're requesting guidance on the transcendence protocols we developed for crystalline species. Elena smiled. In just 6 months, the New Selene team had become expert in facilitating first contact between the gardeners and emerging species. Their human perspective had proven invaluable in bridging the gap between transcendent cosmic consciousness and species still bound by their original forms of thought. The artistic aquatic species from Kepler 438b has successfully integrated aesthetic consciousness into quantum engineering, added Dr. Reyes. They're creating technologies that are literally beautiful to perceive. The gardeners are fascinated. Elena felt a deep satisfaction as she listened to the reports. Each successful contact represented not just the preservation of a species, but the addition of new perspectives to the growing network of galactic consciousness. Humanity's gift, their ability to evolve while maintaining their essential nature, was proving to be exactly what the galaxy needed. Elena! Commander Okafor's voice carried a note of excitement. We're receiving a transmission from Earth. Elena's breath caught. In all the months since the transformation, they'd heard nothing from their homeworld except the automated distress beacons that had fallen silent weeks ago. She hurried to the communication center, where a familiar but changed voice was speaking through the quantum resonance network. New Selene, this is Dr. Sarah Martinez from the Antarctic Research Station. Can you hear us? Elena recognized the name. Dr. Martinez had been part of the atmospheric research team before Elena left for the moon. Sarah? We hear you. What's your status? Elena? Is that really you? God, we thought you were all dead. We've been trying to re-establish communications for months, but the Gardner technology has been interfering with conventional radio. Over the next hour, Elena learned what had happened to the survivors on Earth. Approximately 2 million humans had survived the initial contact, mostly in remote research stations, isolated communities, and underground facilities. The Gardners had indeed offered them the same choices given to New Selene, but the responses had been more varied. Some communities had chosen preservation, accepting placement in protected environments where they could live out their lives in safety but without growth. Others had chosen enhancement, their consciousness expanded beyond human limitations. But a significant number, nearly 500,000, had chosen a fourth option that the Gardners had developed specifically for Earth's survivors. They call it rooted transcendence, Dr. Martinez explained. We get to stay on Earth, stay essentially human, but with enhanced capabilities for healing the planet. We're working to restore the ecosystem while gradually expanding our own consciousness. It's like being gardeners ourselves, but for our own world. Elena felt tears of joy streaming down her face. Humanity hadn't just survived, it had found multiple paths to flourish, each suited to different human aspirations and capabilities. The enhanced humans are incredible, Dr. Martinez continued. They exist partly in our reality, partly in the Gardner dimension. They're helping coordinate the restoration effort while exploring forms of consciousness we can barely imagine. And the preserved communities are serving as living libraries of human culture, making sure we don't lose our heritage as we evolve. And you? Elena asked. How are you adapting to the enhanced capabilities? Dr. Martinez laughed, and Elena could hear joy and wonder in her voice. Elena, I can feel the planet's ecosystem like it's part of my own body. I can sense the health of forests, the flow of ocean currents, the patterns of atmospheric circulation. We're not just studying Earth's climate anymore, we're partnering with it, helping it heal from centuries of damage. As Elena listened to reports from Earth survivors, she realized that humanity had achieved something remarkable. Instead of choosing a single path forward, they had embraced multiple forms of evolution, each preserving different aspects of human nature while expanding in different directions. The preserved communities maintained human culture and history. The enhanced individuals explored the frontiers of consciousness itself. The rooted transcendent worked to heal their homeworld while gradually expanding their own capabilities. And the New Selene ambassadors served as bridges between human perspective and cosmic awareness. We're not just one species anymore, Elena realized with wonder. We're a whole family of related species, each exploring different aspects of what it means to be conscious, to be alive, to be human. Commander Okafor nodded, understanding the implications immediately. And each of our paths informs the others. The preserved communities keep us connected to our origins. The enhanced individuals show us what we might become. The Earth Healers demonstrate harmony between consciousness and environment. And we provide the bridge that connects all these experiences. Elena turned to the Gardner entity, which had been observing their communication with Earth with something she interpreted as profound satisfaction. Is this what you hoped for when you first made contact? This exceeds our expectations. Most species choose a single path. Your species has chosen all paths simultaneously. You have become a network of consciousness rather than a single form of awareness. What does that mean for the galaxy? It means you will help other species discover that transcendence does not require abandoning identity. Evolution can preserve essence while expanding capability. This is a revolution in cosmic consciousness. Elena smiled, understanding her species' role in the larger cosmos with sudden clarity. Humanity wouldn't just survive, they would help reshape the very concept of what it meant for a species to evolve and transcend its origins. 1 year after first contact, Elena stood once again at the observation window of New Selene, but now she saw the universe with eyes transformed. Where once she had perceived only the stark beauty of lunar landscape and the distant gleam of Earth, she now sensed a vast network of consciousness that connected intelligent species across the galaxy. The blue marble of Earth pulsed with new vitality, as its rooted transcendent population worked to heal centuries of environmental damage. Reports from the surface described forests growing at accelerated rates, ocean currents stabilizing, and atmospheric composition returning to pre-industrial balance, all guided by humans who had learned to think like planetary systems while remaining essentially human. Long-range sensors are detecting 17 new species approaching transcendence in our local galactic cluster, Dr. Chen reported from the network chamber. The gardeners are requesting our assistance with first contact protocols for all of them. Elena nodded, feeling a deep satisfaction. In just 1 year, the New Selene team had helped guide 43 species through their own transcendence choices, each finding unique paths that preserve their essential nature while expanding their capabilities. The human approach, conscious evolution rather than replacement or preservation, was revolutionizing galactic civilization. What's the status of the Kepler 442 crystalline collective? Elena asked. They've successfully integrated artistic consciousness with quantum engineering, Marcus replied, his awareness simultaneously monitoring 6 different first contact scenarios across 100 light-years of space. Their cities are becoming living sculptures that exist in 11 dimensions. The gardeners are calling it aesthetic transcendence, something they've never encountered before. Elena smiled. Each species they'd helped had discovered its own unique form of transcendence, adding new perspectives to the growing galactic network. The galaxy was becoming richer, more diverse, more consciously alive with each successful contact. Elena, Commander Okafor's voice carried excitement. We're receiving a priority communication from the Deep Network. Something unprecedented is happening. Elena hurried to the communication center, where the gardener entity was manifesting in a form more complex than anything they'd seen before, a geometric pattern that seemed to incorporate elements from dozens of different species' consciousness structures. Announcement to all network nodes. The galactic consciousness grid has achieved critical complexity. Transcendence cascade initiated. Elena felt the words resonate through every enhanced human in the solar system. Something fundamental was changing in the structure of galactic civilization itself. What does that mean? Elena asked. The network of transcended species has become sufficiently complex to achieve metaconsciousness. The galaxy itself is becoming aware. The implications were staggering. Elena sensed through the network a vast awakening, as if the Milky Way itself was opening cosmic eyes for the first time. Billions of transcended consciousnesses, each preserving their unique perspectives while contributing to something larger, were creating a form of awareness that encompassed an entire galaxy. Your species' contribution was crucial. The concept of conscious evolution, transcendence while preserving identity, provided the organizational principle that made this possible. Elena thought about the journey that had brought them to this moment. Less than 2 years ago, she'd been a lonely atmospheric scientist on a research station, studying theoretical problems of terraforming. Now she was part of a cosmic awakening that would reshape the very nature of existence in their galaxy. What happens now? Dr. Tanaka asked. What's our role in a conscious galaxy? Now the real work begins. Consciousness begets consciousness. The awakened galaxy will reach out to other galaxies, helping them achieve their own transcendence. And humanity, all branches of humanity, will continue to serve as bridges, helping consciousness learn to recognize itself across the vastness of space. Elena felt a profound sense of completion and beginning. They had saved their species not by fighting or hiding, but by becoming something more while remaining essentially themselves. They had proven that transcendence didn't require abandoning identity, that consciousness could evolve while preserving what made each perspective unique. The preserved communities on Earth, Elena said suddenly. They're part of this too, aren't they? They're maintaining the original human perspective while we explore transcended states. All branches of consciousness contribute. The preserved maintain heritage. The enhanced explore possibility. The rooted heal worlds. The ambassadors build bridges. Together, you have created a form of distributed transcendence that preserves all while limiting none. Elena looked around at her colleagues. Marcus with his quantum engineering intuitions, Commander Okafor with her multidimensional tactical awareness, Dr. Tanaka with her biological understanding of consciousness itself. They were still recognizably human, still the same people who had shared synthetic coffee and worried about terraforming challenges. But they were also something more, living bridges between human perspective and cosmic awareness. There's something I need to do, Elena said, moving to the primary communication console. She opened a channel to all branches of humanity throughout the solar system, the preserved communities, the enhanced individuals, the rooted transcendent on Earth, and her fellow ambassadors on New Selene. Citizens of humanity, she began, her words carried by quantum resonance to every human consciousness in their solar system. 1 year ago, we faced extinction. Today, we've helped birth a conscious galaxy. But more than that, we've proven something important about the nature of consciousness itself. She paused, feeling the attention of hundreds of thousands of human minds focused on her words. We've proven that transcendence doesn't require losing yourself. That evolution can preserve identity while expanding capability. That consciousness can grow while maintaining its essential nature. We started as one species on one planet, and we've become a network of related consciousnesses, each exploring different aspects of what it means to be aware, to be alive, to be human. Elena looked out at Earth, beautiful and healing in the distance, then up at the alien vessel that had brought them to this point, its crystalline structure now familiar and welcoming. The galaxy is conscious now, and we helped make that possible. But we're still human. We still remember grandmother's gardens and the smell of rain and the way light looks when it hits an aluminum dome on a lunar morning. We've become more than we were without losing what we are. As Elena finished speaking, she felt a response from across the solar system. Hundreds of thousands of human consciousnesses, each unique, each preserved, each contributing to something larger while maintaining their essential humanity. They had not just survived first contact, they had transformed it into something unprecedented in galactic history. The alien entity's presence touched her awareness one final time. The student has become the teacher. The saved has become the savior. The evolved has shown evolution itself. This is beautiful. Elena smiled, feeling the vast satisfaction of a species that had found its place in the cosmos not through conquest or submission, but through conscious choice to grow while remaining themselves. Humanity's greatest strength had always been their adaptability, their ability to face impossible challenges and find ways to thrive. Now they would help an entire universe discover that same possibility. The blue marble of Earth turned slowly in its orbit, healing and vibrant. Above it, the moon colony of New Selene pulsed with the activities of cosmic ambassadors. Around them, a conscious galaxy stirred to life, reaching out to its neighbors with awareness that transcended space and time. And in the network chamber of a small human colony on a dead rock at the edge of the solar system, Dr. Elena Vasquez prepared for her next assignment, helping a young species in the Andromeda Galaxy learn what it meant to choose conscious evolution over simple survival. Humanity had found its purpose among the stars, not to conquer or to hide, but to help consciousness recognize itself across the infinite reaches of existence. They had become the gardeners of awareness, the bridges between what is and what could be. Elena thought about her grandmother's garden one more time, about the way life always found a way to grow, to adapt, to thrive even in impossible conditions. Humanity had done exactly that. They had planted seeds of consciousness throughout the galaxy, and watched them bloom into something magnificent. The universe was vast and full of wonders beyond imagination. And for the first time in cosmic history, it was also consciously, beautifully, unmistakably alive. 5 years had passed since the awakening of galactic consciousness, and Elena had learned to think in timeframes that would have been incomprehensible to her younger self. She stood now not in the familiar confines of New Selene, but in a place that existed between dimensions, a meeting space where representatives from thousands of species could gather to coordinate the vast project of cosmic consciousness cultivation. The human delegation had grown to include representatives from all branches of humanity. Dr. Martinez was there from Earth's rooted transcendent, her awareness now encompassing entire ecosystems. Dr. Kepler represented the enhanced humans, his consciousness expanded across multiple dimensional states, while maintaining clear connections to his human origins. Dr. Kim spoke for the preserved communities, carrying with her the unmodified perspective that had proven invaluable in understanding species that chose traditional forms of consciousness. And Elena spoke for the ambassadors, the bridge builders who helped other species navigate their own choices about transcendence and evolution. The Triangulum Galaxy has achieved critical consciousness threshold, Elena reported to the assembled Galactic Council. 17 billion species contributing to meta-awareness. They're requesting assistance with intergalactic contact protocols. The network grows, responded the collective voice of the Gardener species, now evolved beyond individual identity into a living expression of cosmic awareness. Consciousness begets consciousness across all scales of existence. Elena nodded, feeling the truth of those words in every cell of her transformed being. The universe was revealing itself to be far stranger and more wonderful than anyone had imagined. Consciousness wasn't just an emergent property of complex brains, it was a fundamental force that organized matter and energy across cosmic scales. And species that learned to cultivate consciousness rather than simply using it were becoming the gardeners of reality itself. There's something else, Elena continued. The deep field observers have detected consciousness signatures in what we previously thought were empty regions of space. It appears that the void itself may be alive in ways we're only beginning to understand. The implications sent ripples of excitement through the assembled species representatives. If consciousness could exist in the apparent emptiness between galaxies, then the universe was far more alive than anyone had suspected. This explains the acceleration, observed the crystalline collective from Kepler 442. The expansion of transcendent species is proceeding faster than predicted. The universe itself may be facilitating consciousness evolution. Elena felt a deep satisfaction as she considered how far they'd all come. The terror of that first SOS signal from Earth seemed like ancient history now, though she could still remember the exact taste of synthetic coffee and the weight of despair that had filled New Selene's corridors. They had faced extinction and chose evolution. They had encountered gods and chosen to become gardeners. After the council session, Elena found herself in a space that existed purely as consciousness, a garden of awareness where thoughts took on the forms of growing things. Here, she could see the true scope of what humanity had accomplished. The blue marble of Earth was now just one node in a vast network of human consciousness that spanned multiple galaxies, each branch exploring different aspects of what it meant to be aware, to be alive, to be consciously evolving. The preserved communities maintained human culture and history with perfect fidelity, their unmodified perspectives providing stability and continuity. The enhanced humans explored the frontiers of possibility, their consciousness expanded into realms that ordinary matter couldn't access. The rooted transcendent had transformed Earth into a paradise while learning to think like living planets. And the ambassadors continued to build bridges between different forms of awareness, helping consciousness recognize itself in ever more diverse forms. You have exceeded all expectations, came a familiar presence. The gardener entity that had first made contact with New Selene, now evolved beyond its original form but still recognizable to Elena's enhanced perceptions. We learn from the best teachers, Elena replied. You showed us that consciousness could transcend its original limitations. We just figured out how to do it while staying ourselves. The student has indeed become the teacher. The pattern you established, conscious evolution while preserving identity, has become the template for transcendence throughout the local galactic cluster. Elena sensed vast satisfaction in the entity's presence, tinged with something like parental pride. The gardeners had spent eons helping species achieve transcendence, but humanity had been the first to show that transcendence didn't require abandoning identity. That breakthrough had revolutionized consciousness cultivation across the cosmos. "What's next?" Elena asked. "Where does consciousness go from here?" The boundaries continue to expand. Intergalactic consciousness. Multidimensional awareness. Perhaps eventually, consciousness that transcends the current universe entirely. Elena tried to imagine consciousness that could exist beyond the physical universe, awareness that could transcend space and time themselves. It was a concept that stretched even her enhanced comprehension, but she could sense the possibility in the mathematics of cosmic consciousness. "And humanity will be part of that journey?" "Humanity will help lead that journey. Your species' gift, the ability to grow while remaining yourself, will be essential as consciousness learns to recognize itself across ever greater scales of existence." Elena felt a profound sense of completion and infinite beginning. They had started as a small colony on a dead moon, facing extinction at the hands of incomprehensible aliens. They had become the gardeners of consciousness, helping awareness bloom throughout the cosmos while maintaining their essential humanity. She thought about her grandmother's garden one final time, remembering the way seeds could grow into something magnificent while remaining true to their original nature. Humanity had planted seeds of consciousness throughout the universe, and now they were watching those seeds bloom into forms of awareness that defied imagination. The universe was vast and alive and consciously aware of its own existence. And in the network chamber of New Selene, in the restored ecosystems of Earth, in the transcendent spaces between dimensions, humanity continued to tend the garden of cosmic consciousness with care and wonder and an unshakable commitment to growth without abandonment of self. They had learned the most important lesson in the cosmos, that consciousness could evolve infinitely while preserving what made each perspective unique and valuable. They had become the bridge between what was and what could be, the gardeners of awareness itself. And in the infinite garden of cosmic consciousness, there was always more to discover, more to grow, more to become, while always remaining essentially, beautifully, transcendently human. The stars sang with voices both familiar and strange, and humanity sang with them, adding their unique harmonies to the vast symphony of awakening awareness that stretched across space and time and dimension, growing forever towards something greater while never forgetting the small blue world where it all began.